Okay, so in this video we're going to be learning about how to solve absolute values inside of equations. And we need to remember that the absolute value of 5, just to refresh a little bit, equals the distance we need to remember that the absolute value is the distance that any number, not just 5, is away from 0. So the absolute value of 5 is 5, and that the absolute value of -5 is also 5. So the absolute value of any number, again, is the distance that it is away from 0. Positive or negative, an absolute value will always be represented with a positive number. So the negative absolute value of -7 is 7. The absolute value of +8 is 8. The absolute value of -123 is 123. It's all represented as a positive number. Okay, so let's look at an absolute value inside of an equation. So we're going to write this equation. The absolute value of x minus 5 equals 20. So what values for x make this equation true? What values for x make this equation true? Well, if an absolute value can be either a positive or a negative, then x could be a positive or a negative. We know that x minus 5 could equal -20, okay? Because an absolute value is going to be a positive number, okay? So I know that's a little confusing, so let's work it out. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, take away the absolute value symbols, we're going to say x minus 5 equals 20, or x minus 5 equals -20. So we're going to put one with a negative and one with a positive value. Okay, so let's solve those. We're just going to pop the -5 to the other side of the equal sign, and say 20 plus 5, x equals 25, and then we can pop the 5 on this one to the other side of the equal sign, and let's say -20 plus 5, x equals 15, -15. So if we were to plug these back in to this equation right here, we can say the absolute value of 25 minus 5 equals 20. The absolute value of 20 equals 20, so 20 equals 20. Sorry, I ran off the page there. 20 equals 20. Okay, so let's plug 15 in to that equation. The absolute value of -15 minus 5 equals 20. The absolute value of -20 equals 20. The absolute value of -20 is 20, so 20 equals 20. You see how that works? It's relatively simple, and it's not something to overthink. So let's say that 2x, the absolute value of 2x is less than 6. All right, so we can say that we know that we can put a negative in front of this because it's an absolute value. So the absolute value is always going to make the answer come out to be a positive 6. All right, so we can say that 2x is greater than -6, and 2x is less than positive 6, because it says that 2x is less than positive 6. But we know that 2x would also be greater than -6 because it's an absolute value. Okay, so let's go ahead and solve this inequality. So this inequality, remember we split inequalities up by separating them with the symbols. Okay, so -6 is less than 2x, and 2x is less than 6. So let's solve these. We just, 2, we have negative 3 is less than x, and we can solve this, and then we can say that x is less than 3. Okay? So that is how we solve an inequality with an absolute value. We say we're going to take this number, okay, and we're going to put it as a negative, put the value or the variable term in the middle, and then have it as a positive at the end, okay? So we see we just did inverse operations, and then we got negative 3 is less than x, which is less than positive 3. And that would be our final answer for finding the value of x in this problem. X could be any number between negative 3 and positive 3 for 2 multiplied by that number to be less than x, or I'm sorry, 6. Okay, so let's try a couple examples. Let's say w, the absolute value of w plus 15 equals 11. All right, remember, let's split this into two different equations, one with a positive answer and one with a negative answer. All right, so let's go ahead and solve this. So we bring the 15 over, w equals 11 minus 15, w equals negative 4. This one, let's bring it over here. W equals negative 11 minus 15, w equals negative 26. Okay, so both these answers, negative 26 and negative 4, make this absolute value equation true. So let's check it out. Let's say the absolute value of negative 4, okay, I'll substitute that in for the w first, plus 15 equals 11. Negative 4 plus 15 is 11, equals 11. So 11 equals 11. That checks out. Let's plug negative 26 in there. Okay, so let's say negative 26, the absolute value of negative 26 plus 15 equals 11. Negative 26 plus 15 is negative 11. The absolute value of negative 11 is 11, so 11 equals 11. Check, that one works too. And let's say negative 2x, the absolute value of negative 2x equals 12. All right, well, let's split it into two different equations. Negative 2x equals 12, or negative 2x equals negative 12. All right, positive and negative. Okay, positive and negative. All right, so let's go ahead and solve these. Divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2, x equals negative 6, or divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2, x equals positive 6. Okay, now let's double check and make sure that these are true. So let's put the absolute value of negative 2 multiplied by 6 equals 12, which is negative 12. The absolute value of negative 12 equals 12. 12 does equal 12. Check. Okay, so let's plug the positive 6 in. I'm sorry, we just did the positive 6. Let's plug the negative 6 in over here. Let's say the absolute value of negative 2 multiplied by negative 6 equals 12. This is the absolute value of positive 12 equals 12. 12 does always equal. So let's do one more example that says x, the absolute value of x minus 3 is less than 6. And we have to split this into two different equations or inequalities. So let's say x minus 3 is less than 6, and or x minus 3 is less than negative 6. Okay, so let's solve this. So let's bring the 3 over to the other side. 6 plus 3, x is less than 9. Or we can bring it to the, bring this to the other side, say x is less than negative 6 plus 3, x is less than negative 3. But can we have x be less than negative 3 and less than 9? Possibly, but we want it to be able to be put into the middle, so x has to be greater than one of these. So what happens? Well, whenever we make this a negative, we need to flip the inequality symbol. Okay? So whenever we make the answer a negative in an inequality, we need to flip the inequality symbol. So really, these are greater than symbols. Greater than symbols. So x is greater than negative 3. So we can say negative 3 is less than x, and x is less than 9. And this would be an answer for this absolute value inequality. We will work on these more in class, and I will see you there.